What is the weirdest sensation that you only experienced once? I have no sense of smell, never have, and one time, I went to an ent to see if they could find a reason why. He put a camera way up into my nasal cavity to look for polyps or rhinitis, and after a little bit, weird, glowing beams of light started passing across the room. After the third or fourth, I said something like, "I wonder what's out there, the window, that's shining light into here." He said, "Oh no, you're just seeing the camera's headlight from behind your eyes." I've had that too. I have nasal polyps, so my doctor checks my nose with that long camera thing. The first time I had it, the doctor didn't numb me at all. I can't even explain the sensation. A long, thin tube wiggling around in my nose, right next to my eyes. It felt like my brain was tickling my face. I was struck by lightning when I lived in Florida. It was like the hand of God was wearing one of those prank handshake buzzers and decided to grab my entire body. I woke up to my asleep arm suffocating me. I must have laid on it for a really long time. Then when I rolled over in my sleep, it flopped over my mouth and nose. My arm was so asleep that I couldn't feel it or move it at all. I had to thrash around to get it off my face. When I was very little, my mum was reading me a bedtime story. I couldn't get to sleep and I felt bad that she'd wait until I was before she left. So I closed my eyes to pretend I was asleep and opened them again, but it was somehow morning. It felt like a blink. I have done this once. Literally blinked then it was morning. So weird and haven't been able to do it since. It wasn't like a deep dreamless sleep either, it was actually just blink, 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 morning. Oh, that's weird. My femur was broken in a car wreck. Bad compound fracture. I touched the end of the bone sticking out of the top of my leg. Burnt like a MF. My collarbone went through the skin in a bike wreck. After the wreck I landed on my feet and felt upset because I thought I broke my jaw. I felt absolutely no pain aside from that until I touched it. The rush of pain flooded every part of my senses. After that I just lay down in the ditch and waited for someone to come by and help. Just typing this makes my shoulder burn and twitch. Midway through high school, I walked out of the locker room and outside to go to PE class. The moment I stepped into the sun, something went weird with my vision. Figuring I'd lost a contact on the back of my eye, I went back inside and looked in the mirror. Eyes were still bright blue, but one pupil was huge and the other was a pinpoint. Doctors never did figure out what it was and it never happened again. But for a while I was excused from all PE and outdoor activity. Got to wear sunglasses anytime I was in a classroom with the sun shining anywhere near my desk. And was checked over 6 ways from Sunday for a head injury. Fainting. It was my freshman year in college, watching a movie alone around midnight when I felt a sharp pain on my right side. Kind of freaked out and had something like a panic attack. Had a glass of water and went outside to take a walk for a few minutes. That's when I started getting tunnel vision and this made me freak out even more. I remember running into 3 guys I barely knew and telling them I don't feel well. The light at the end of the tunnel was gone, so was I. Had a vivid dream that I thought lasted for minutes. Then my senses came back to me. It was like a ghost hovering back to its body. They told me I was out for 10 seconds tops. The extreme adrenaline rush I had when I bungee jumped. The jump was video recorded and even 5 minutes after I was released from the rope, so maybe as much as 10 minutes after the jump. You can see that my limbs are involuntarily shaking. Note, I am terrified of heights. For a good month after I jumped, every time I looked back on it I got an insane adrenaline rush. This will be disgusting, but once a small fly flew in my mouth and I didn't know. It was a really, really small fly though. I bit it without knowing what it was and it tasted like berries or fruit. 10/10 would eat that fly again. Fruit fly. Working with styrene, a hydrocarbon solvent. It evaporates readily and the vapors are heavier than air. It has a pleasant to me, sweet smell and after a while you don't even notice it. I was working in a boat hull using wax and styrene. I could smell it and feel it going into my lungs. After a while, I had the most peculiar feeling. Breathing made my lungs feel cool inside, like menthol does to your mouth. A very strange feeling, indeed. I realized the styrene was displacing the air in the hull and it was starting to also build up in my lungs. I knew I had to get out and so I did, but at the same time I didn't really want to. The cool, soothing feeling in my lungs was quite pleasant. When I was getting my wisdom teeth out, as they were injecting the anesthetic to put me under, the dentist told me that this particular drug has a peculiar side effect, making you itch like crazy around your crotch. As he finished his sentence, I felt the strangest sensation, and like any itch I've had before, almost like something was trying to crawl its way out of me, and then I was out. To this day, I don't know if the itch was an actual side effect of the anesthetic, or whether it makes one susceptible to the suggestion of a very strange dentist. Either way, that was easily the weirdest sensation I can remember experiencing. The first time I had an epileptic seizure, grand mal, I was 14 and just went to bed, slowly suffocating while having no control over my body. Must have been only a few seconds before I blacked out, but it felt like forever. I had no idea what was going on and all I could think was I'm going to die. Afterwards, I got peed at my parents for waking me up in the middle of the night for no reason, being totally oblivious of the seizure and the 3 paramedics standing over me while I was lying on my floor. I lost the ability to read once. It happened when I was a teenager. I could see all the letters but they didn't make words. I went to the ER. They took an MRI and told me they thought it was a migraine due to my other symptoms. One time a friend and I were waiting for a bus. She gently kicked the bus shelter, more of a tap of the foot than anything, and immediately recoiled in pain and fear, just claimed to have been shocked. Considering it was winter and we were wearing big rubber sole boots, I didn't believe my friend, so I gave the shelter a little tap of the foot as well. She was right, whatever the cause, it made our kicking legs numb for 2-3 minutes. Still don't understand how or why. Once my anus went totally numb while driving in my car. Weirdest sensation ever. One time I yawned really wide and I heard a clicking sounds in my jaw. I wasn't able to close it for about 15 seconds. Most horrifying 15 seconds of my life. I get this all the time. If I yawn a certain way then I get excruciating pain from my jaw joint up to my ear and I have to physically snap my jaw back in place sometimes. Worst pain I've ever had. Prior to my bypass surgery I had an angiogram. They basically push a thin flexible wire into an artery at your wrist and push it along until it's inside your heart. You can feel it wiggling around deeper inside your body than anything else you've ever felt. Disconcerting. Would not repeat. A day after my catheter was removed I went to pee and an air bubble came out my dong. I queefed out my dong. 10/10 would repeat. In middle school, I believe 7th or 8th grade, I remember barely getting any sleep one night. The next day I felt shockingly awake, alert and very happy. I've never had this feeling again and it sucks because it was a great feeling. Common occurrence for me. If I've had decently regular sleep and one night I end up getting 2 hours of sleep I will be so on point the next day. Only problem is that it is not repeatable. I have to be well rested before the sleep deprivation. If I try it a second day in a row my chest hurts. I woke straight up from REM sleep because my phone was ringing, but when I opened my eyes to see who it was, my eyes were still rapidly moving uncontrollably left to right, and I couldn't read the phone because I was seeing everything moving. Terrifying. I went totally blind in my left eye for about 3 weeks. Got test scanned done. They couldn't find anything wrong. I kept walking into people because I had no peripheral vision on my left side. After a few days I kind of just thought well, this is my life now and tried to adjust to it. Then the dark area got smaller and smaller and my vision returned to normal. That was 18 years ago. Weird. Ever since I started taking one of my medications, I have had a lot of vivid dreams on the regular. But I once had a dream that spanned years, and that was really freaky. During that dream, I became best friends with a dude named Anthony who was vaguely based on a friend of mine's brother appearance-wise, but wasn't like anyone that I knew at the time. We graduated from university together, went on some giant road trip. I helped him through grieving over his mother's death. We were roommates for quite some time. I watched him get married and got to be the honorary aunt of his first child over the course of the dream. Parts in the middle of those events were really hazy, but it was like there were milestones that marked the years. For as interesting as the dream was, and for as long as I slept, I think it was 14 hours because it was right after finals. I'm honestly really glad that this hasn't happened again. When I woke up, I was extremely disoriented and felt like I just had a friend die. It sounds kind of ridiculous, but I really missed Anthony for a full week afterward, even though I knew he wasn't real. When I was a teenager, I didn't sleep for, honestly, I don't actually remember how long I went without sleeping, but it was to the degree that apparently I started randomly taking stuff off the dining room table and putting it all into some random bag, then falling asleep on the floor. It was really weird acknowledging I was doing something like that, for no apparent reason at all, but being so out of it that my brain went on full cruise control mode. I've never had that level of cruise control mode ever again, even while being extremely doped up on meds after a surgery. Lack of sleep turned you into a dragon, bro. I was riding a train at night in Sydney while backpacking through Australia at one point when it suddenly derailed. The guy across from me was thrown out a broken window as the train rolled over. People were screaming, and the train cart was engulfed in flames as it came to a stop. That's when I woke up to realize that I was sitting exactly where the dream has taken place and the guy across from me was still sitting there, and in reality nothing had happened. Even the people I had dreamed about were still sitting where I had imagined them, except everything was fine. I was freaked out and half convinced I just saw my future death or something. Really tripped me out and I still think about it sometimes. Really weird experience. Getting a phone call from my sister. Dad suddenly collapsed at work today, and he died. That moment produced a physical sensation in me that I can't really describe. Like when you say something embarrassing and your face gets all hot, combined with an immediate urge to get up and do something. My heart rate slowed to a crawl, but it was beating really hard. It was like fight or flight, but fight what, fly from what, so many feelings, all descending on my mind all at once. It was simultaneously real and unreal. I think that's maybe what a computer would feel during a BSOD. Same here when my sister called me saying our mom died. I just felt numb, like a truck just hit me. I didn't feel sad, just I couldn't face it. The next few hours after were just drinking till I collapsed. I still remember it like it was yesterday. I was little, maybe 4 or 5, I think, but I remember it so vividly. I woke up early in the morning, as usual, so no one else was up yet. It must have been the middle of summer because the sun was already up, so there was plenty of light to see by even though I had these thick maroon curtains. Anyway, I'd woken from some kind of dream I quickly forgot. I sat up and picked up my doll from down beside my bed and started playing with it, lying it down to adjust the dress. It didn't take long, maybe 30 seconds to a minute, before I realized something was really not right. I looked around and then realized my perspective was all wrong. I was watching myself playing with the doll from the foot of the bed. I didn't freak out. I just tried to fix it by blinking really hard, but each time it just changed my viewpoint in the room. After maybe 3 tries it came right, so I just calmly went about my business. Never, ever forgot it though. I still remember it so vividly. A nurse body slamming on my chest trying to dislodge my baby's bum from my ribs during a C-section. Similarly, getting cut open while numb, having your stomach muscles torn apart and having a baby pulled from you. All very weird sensations. I was drunk, then stoned. It was the first time I'd done both on the same night. My friend came up behind the couch I was sitting on and hit me with one of those wire head massager things. Not really hit me, she just used it as intended. I was basically paralyzed from the sensation. It was unexpected, and my brain couldn't process what it was, but it was wonderful, and I don't think I'll ever be able to recreate the surprise and exact mix of drunk high again. I've been in a sensory deprivation chamber several times, but the first time something really weird happened that I've never been able to replicate. If you don't know what a sense dep chamber is, it's a pod with a pool of water just deep enough to float in. The water has a huge amount of salt in it, so you float very well, preventing the sensation of gravity. The water and air are also kept at the same temperature, so you can't feel the boundary between the two. The pod is also sound and light proof, so you can't see, hear, smell or feel anything. So over time my thoughts were slowing down. It's like I was having a thought at any given time, but since there was no sensory input, my next thought could only be based on the previous one. Those thoughts got less and less detailed until I was having this string of very simple thoughts. After a while, I had my last thought. You would think there was nothingness, but there wasn't. It was freaking weird. There was a very brief sensation of nothingness, quickly followed by an increasingly loud thought noise. You know how all thoughts you have are electric impulses in your brain, right? Those thoughts have meaning because the impulses aren't random. They are very particularly and specifically ordered. So if you think of a doctor, some set of neurons fire, and that means doctor. If you think of the color white, some different sets of neurons fire, and that means white. If you think of a hospital, some other set of neurons fire, some of which are in the doctor set and some of which are in the white set, because both doctors and white are associated with hospitals, and that means hospital. Well, imagine if neurons were firing off randomly. Sets of neurons are firing, all of which are associated with some concept or another, but not in a coherent, ordered way, so that 3 out of the 10,000 doctor neurons are firing, and 4 of the 10,000 kindness neurons are firing, and so forth. You would be having thoughts, but they wouldn't feel like thoughts per se. They would be meaningless, but not meaningless in a way you understand as meaningless, because when you think of meaninglessness it's an ordered concept in your brain. Perfectly clear, but perfectly meaningless thoughts, and a different meaningless thought at any given moment. Just a continuous stream of different, unique, perfectly meaningless concepts flowing through your brain. It was freaking bizarre. I imagine that noise is always there, but that our thoughts are very, very loud compared to it, so we never feel it. Maybe it has something to do with why our dreams are so freaking random. I don't know, but it was cool as frick and I've been trying to replicate it since without success. Fainting due to orthostatic hypotension on an airplane. It happened while I was exiting a laboratory. Just as I stepped out the door my vision went dark, and when it came back I was really confused because everything was at a bizarre angle. I didn't realize I had slumped to the floor onto my back and was staring at the ceiling, as I didn't even realize I had lost consciousness. Luckily as I fainted I leaned into a wall a few inches behind me, which slowed my fall and kept me from hitting the ground hard. A couple flight attendants saw it happen and helped my confused self upright and back to my seat. It scared the heck out of them. They said I stepped out of the bathroom and my face was completely pale, and then my eyes flickered and I fell. I realized it was a side effect of my medication, as orthostatic hypotension can happen when the dose is increased, and my doc had increased the dose a few days before. The flight attendants were glad to hear this, thinking they might have a medical emergency above the middle of the Pacific Ocean. The strangest part for me was realizing how long it took for my blood pressure to fall to fainting levels. I'd stood up from the toilet, pulled up my pants, buckled my belt, washed my hands, and opened the door before I passed out. I guess I should be glad it didn't happen right after I stood up, because I would have passed out into the airplane toilet or the floor of the laboratory. Could have been a very gross experience. Shudder. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.